It's a beautiful Wednesday morning, and as usual, we're here once again to do what we're always here to do, which is bring sustainable development and advocacy for such. We're here once again on Hude Hour to speak about issues within the humanitarian and development space. My name has not changed. I remain Amadin Ogbewe.
I know it will never change, and I am Joan Eze. Welcome. Hi, Amadin, the name that never changed.
Hello, Joan. Are you sure your name won't change?
I don't.
You don't subscribe to the gender stereotypes
don't do
in Africa.
Don't put me on
well,
the
anyways,
spot.
it's fair. Don't worry. We like to see changes and all of that. But even these days, men are changing their names as well.
Yeah.
So
especially when they, marry, well.
Oh yeah. I mean, you should marry someone very well to do. I understand. But sadly, the issues we have to talk about today are more serious and more dire. But we do hope that the point of our conversation here today is so that we can lead people to where we currently are and others, to a place of happiness, to a place of comfort and recovery. Speaking of which, the scars of war are not just physical. Many survivors carry deep psychological wounds that can last for generations. Post-war trauma, if left unaddressed, can fuel distrust, social fragmentation, and even renewed cycles of violence. How can mental health support and counseling help break this cycle and pave the way for lasting peace?
Good question. Healing these invisible wounds is essential for rebuilding communities, restoring trust, and fostering resilience. Without proper support, trauma can hinder recovery and prevent true reconciliation.
On this episode, we'll explore the role of mental health care in post-conflict recovery, from trauma counseling to community-based healing initiatives. We'll also discuss how these efforts align with SDG 16 of promoting peace, justice, and strong institutions while helping individuals and societies move forward after war. But first, let's take a look at our headlines. First, we have now Syrian refugee wins UNHCR Nansen Award. In other news, WHO expands mental health support in conflict-affected Nigerian states. And finally, we have Ukraine expands mental health support amid war impact. Now, we'll go on a quick break. When we return, we'll delve into these issues. Don't go anywhere. Now, the WHO's comprehensive review of 129 studies across 39 countries reveals that 1 in 5 people, that's about 22%, who have experienced conflict in the past decade will develop mental disorders, including depression, anxiety, PTSD, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia. In these populations, approximately 9% develop moderate to severe mental disorders, almost double the general population rates.
The data shows specific prevalence rates of 13% of mild forms of depression, anxiety, and PTSD, and 4% for moderate forms. Additionally, 5% of conflict-affected populations develop severe disorders like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Research indicates depression is more common in women than men, and both depression and anxiety increase with age in conflict settings.
Now we'll take a look at some news stories after the break. Don't go anywhere. Now, Jean Davod, a Syrian refugee and social entrepreneur, has been named the 2024 regional winner for Europe of the UNHCR Nansen Refugee Award. Recognized for her work in mental health support, Davod created Peace Therapists, an online platform connecting trauma survivors with licensed therapists, offering free services to refugees and local communities in need. Born in Raga, Syria, Davod fled to Turkey in 2014. While studying computer engineering, she developed Peace Therapists to break down language and cultural barriers that often prevent refugees from accessing mental health care. The platform now has over 100 psychologists offering therapy in Arabic, English, Kurdish, and Turkish. The award ceremony in Geneva, hosted by actress Nomaz Mo Mbata, Davot said that it wasn't her choice to become a refugee, but it is her choice to help refugees. She dedicated the award to all who have endured hardship and continue to build resilience. Following the 2023 Turkey-Syria earthquakes, Peace Therapists expanded its services, partnering with international organizations to support thousands affected. Users credit the platform with helping them regain confidence, return to school, and rebuild their lives. UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, praised Davot and 4 other female winners for their leadership, emphasizing the vital role of women in humanitarian efforts and policy change. I couldn't be more proud, couldn't be more excited by that news, especially her quote there. It's a very powerful quote. I didn't choose to be a refugee, but I choose to help refugees, which connotes the idea that even as a survivor, you still have power. And now you have the power to help others become like you or help them out. And I'm glad to see the progress or the expansion we're seeing with more psychologists, more international bodies coming in to help this process. And I also like how it's not, even though it does cater to people who might be victims of war and trauma and all of that, it also caters to others, like for instance, the earthquake that was mentioned, because trauma can come not just from conflicts, but from other issues. And the language barrier being solved,
yeah.
it's a perfect story almost, I can say. And I think this is what we are actually here for today, to see how people can move from whatever they've been through to a better place of recovery.
I just feel like carrying a speaker and, going around the world to tell Jean Davot how proud and other 4 female winners. I am so proud not only because she did it, but number one, this is a female we're talking about here. She has actually played, this is a student in computer engineering. And, it's so beautiful to see that somebody thought of something very, very important, out of the box. An entrepreneur, innovative, cooked up something somewhere and, let me solve a particular problem. And this brings me to like telemedicine, where you can reach out to doctors just at the comfort of your homes. And I'm so glad that number one, is free, and a lot of professionals have keyed into it, to save people. They did not just create it and left it there. A lot of people got into the platform to say, yes, I'm available to help not just ordinary people, but licensed therapists. So you are sure that as a victim, you interacting with someone, you're sure that, yes, I am interacting with a professional. So that's a very good one. And I am so proud. Yes, I am.
So am I.
Let's move to the next news item we have. The World Health Organization has partnered with governments of Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states to strengthen mental health services in communities affected by prolonged conflict and displacement. With funding from the European Commission Humanitarian Aid, WHO has trained 240 primary healthcare clinicians, including doctors, nurses, midwives, and community health extension workers, to provide mental health care across 142 primary health care centers in 65 local government areas. The program equips healthcare workers to offer counseling, reduce stigma, and treat conditions such as PTSD, depression, self-harm, and substance use disorders. The initiative integrates mental health into primary health care, ensuring it is part of overall health service delivery. This initiative is the first of its kind in the Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states and aims to enhance early diagnosis and treatment of mental health disorders. This was a statement by Dr. Kumshida Yakubu Balami, WHO's interim emergency manager for Northeast Nigeria. Moving forward, WHO remains committed to bridging gaps in mental health care, particularly for communities facing poverty, violence, and displacement. The effort aligns with WHO's Nigeria's country's cooperation strategy and supports universal health coverage and emergency health management. Well, this is what we're talking about. It's just from one good news to another. This is WHO coming to Nigeria, partnering with Nigeria. That's the Bay States, that's the Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states, where conflict, these are conflict zone areas. And they've said, okay, let us reach out to professionals. Let's reach out to medical professionals to tell them about mental health. It's very important that these professionals look out for these people, the victims that are involved in the conflict, to make sure that, yes, let us try to bring them out of what they are going through.
Yeah, indeed. And particularly for me, what stuck out to me was that the counselors are also being trained to fight stigma. And I think that's something we can also talk about later, which is that stigma, you would assume, should be reserved for perhaps some types of persons, but even survivors are stigmatized. You survive something, you are okay now, but people are still linking you with what you survived. And those are some of the things that we'll get to talk about more. And also the fact that this program is targeting, areas with prolonged conflict has happened in those areas. It helps because, again, when we started this conversation, we talked about how the post-war trauma can lead to issues later on. So it's not just to say, well, this particular area is now free of conflict, they must be fine now. There are injuries you cannot see, and I think that's what the expansion of these services will probably uncover in the long run. We're going to break now. When we return, we'll delve into our final news item of the day. You don't want to go anywhere. Now, so final news item, the ongoing war in Ukraine has severely affected the mental health and well-being of its citizens, with over 70% experiencing stress or severe anxiety. The Ministry of Health estimates that 15 million Ukrainians will need psychological support, with 3 to 4 million requiring medication. In response, Ukraine launched a national mental health program in May 2022, spearheaded by First Lady Olena Zelenska. The program coordinates multi-sectoral efforts to provide mental health and psychosocial support across the country. A key initiative, the How Are You campaign, was introduced in March 2023 to raise awareness and connect people with free mental health services. Key projects under the program include mental health integration in primary health care, support for military personnel transitioning to civilian life, and psychological recovery systems for soldiers and their families. To date, over 429,000 people have received mental health training, and 180,000 patients have accessed psychosocial care. Additionally, Ukraine has established over 1,000 coordination centers at various administrative levels to provide localized mental health support, ensuring nationwide access to assistance. Well, again, one of the core reasons we're having this issue is to shine a light on the fact that it is not, there's a widespread effect that comes with post-war trauma, which is for the combatants who are actually part of this. And that's why we see Ukraine now having a system of transitioning people who are in active warfare to civilian life, because you're not going to fight all your life. These conflicts, whatever reason they might happen, we need to always remember that there are people at the heart of it, and the care also reaches out to people who are survivors. And again, sometimes I think people who survive while their close ones didn't survive are not seen as people who have gone through anything. I mean, you're alive. So these are some of the things that we see is happening there. As for the conflict to itself, I can't say how long this will go on, but it's important that these things are prioritized so that at the end of the day, if all parties will make it through in one piece, one physical piece, we should ensure that the mental piece is also glued back together if it was shattered during the process.
Yeah, I would really love to know when our guest arrives during the interview, to know how it is to transit from, the soldiers, for instance, fighting for the cause of their country. Conflict, and most of this conflict is something that you can actually say, it's not my business. But you're fighting for the cause of your country, you're defending your nation, you're also protecting the civilians, okay? and now you are said you are done, and you want to move, you want to transit. How traumatic it is for them. I would really want to know how it is for them. But
this is a point of curiosity, and we'll find out more after the break. Well, we'll go on a break now. When we return, we will be joined by a psychologist talking about Jennifer Kizito, as she will be doing justice to this matter of post-war trauma and how we can begin to recover both those who are combatants, those who are victims, and all other such people, and bring them back into regular living and healing. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss this. We'll be right back.
Every day, amazing stories of hope and tenacity unfold across the globe. On Hude Hour, we dive into these inspiring tales and discuss the vital work being done in the humanitarian and development space. Humanity has never faced a shortage of challenges, yet we rise stronger through teamwork and determination. Though these remedies are often underreported, on Hude Hour, we advocate sustainable solutions. We bring you the latest and most impactful news on how lives are being changed. We engage with young change makers and experts who provide valuable insights into relief efforts and the challenges faced by local communities through a global perspective. Join us every Wednesday by 8 a.m. on Hude Network's YouTube channel as we embark on this journey of positive change.
Hey everyone, let's face it, our world today experiences numerous challenges. And guess what? Our community isn't off the hook either. Most of the world issues are either not talked about enough or never talked about at all. But here on Timeline, we've got you covered. We dive deep into issues that affect us every day, leaving behind footprints of wisdom, knowledge, and solutions. Think of it like a roadmap that keeps you on the track for success. So buckle up, because in this new season of Timeline, we're taking another trip through the past, the present, and navigate into a more promising future. Again, we're talking solutions, people, and let's make one thing clear. This is not your average blah 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 convo. This is real talk with a side of inspiration and a sprinkle of wow. I never thought about it like that. I'm your host on this impactful ride. Together, we'll tackle the tough stuff, laugh a little, and find ourselves on the path to positive change. So what are you waiting for? Season 2 of Timeline will be loaded. Let's get started. Hop in and let's drive straight into the heart of issues shaping our world. Let's go. Oh, one more thing. Hit that subscribe button and let's take this ride together.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is still the matter of post-war trauma right here on Hude Hour. We're talking about healing after conflict, restoring mental wellness. We've been joined now by psychologist Jennifer Kizito, a regular here at Hude Network. Hello, Jennifer. How are you doing today?
Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, Amadin.
Good to have you.
Joan, nice seeing you.
Nice seeing you too. Welcome.
You know, I always say I feel bad when we smile during discussions like this, but that's the ultimate goal, really, so that others can smile too. And I think it makes someone a little bit more at ease to be themselves when they see that you are at ease yourself. So let's go straight into it now. The issue of post-war trauma. Obviously, when we say post-war, the assumption is that you've survived the issue. Perhaps you're in a better place now. But before we get there and how mental health efforts and initiatives can help those who have survived, in the first place, when these things happen, when disaster strikes, by disaster, I mean conflicts, what are the ways, to help people that first responders can use? So people who might be in shock, people who are experiencing conflict for the first time in their lives, because truly there are people who live their lives never seen any form of violence, and then suddenly they are pushed into something that is completely different, new, losing family, losing their life, getting injured, seeing all kinds of horrors. In that first instance, before we get to after the war now, what are those things that could help those people?
Most of the times, the first responders are usually medical health experts or officers. They are usually the first to come on site. So one of the things that they could do is provide psychological aid, because we realize that at that first instance, the shock that comes with the experience, the fact, the summary trauma that comes with the experience. So they have to provide psychological first aid, which is providing emotional support for the people that are involved, validating the feelings or the experiences that they had or they are having currently in that situation. They have to validate the feelings or the experiences and then provide appropriate emotional support by giving them a safe space, helping them talk, and then taking them to safe environments. From there, we can now look at connecting them to appropriate mental health care providers.
That's fair enough. Before we now start delving into, post-war efforts, that is. Well, is there, just before we move on, is there a time aspect to this? Is it that if you don't get that care soon enough, it's going to worsen? Or is it something that at whatever point we finally are ready to address it, we can't make significant progress?
Well, it's very important to address mental health issues as fast as possible, as quick as possible, because you don't know what's going on in the person's mind. It's not something that you can measure by just looking at the person or just a physical assessment. So it's very important that we give the person the appropriate mental health care or mental aid at that point as quick as possible. We can't say that there is a timeline, but the more mental health issues linger, the more the chances of things escalating, and then we get to a situation by which we cannot control the situation. So it's very important that we address mental health care issues as soon as possible.
That's fair enough. And I think that's something that we want to see, to understand how these persons are being helped out of that. But maybe we'll delve more into the different groups. But maybe I shouldn't interrupt Joan and let her speak on this issue.
Okay, let's talk about, let's give an instance where there is a particular scenario of conflict happening. What are those brief interventions that can actually take place, to help the victims involved, in when there are no traditional therapy?
Yeah, so in situations like that, just like I mentioned earlier, it's very important that we give psychological first aid. This cannot be underrated because this is a mind issue. So we must give people emotional support. We must be there for them. When we bring in people that are experts in this field and they begin to interact with these people, have talk sessions with them, have personal interactions with people, it's very important that you go beyond the group sessions to begin to talk to people individually, because what people wouldn't say during the...
but there are group sessions in the first place.
Yeah, there are group sessions.
What can that achieve?
It's very important that communities heal as a group, because it's very important that you're seeing that everybody is passing through what you're passing through. When people air their views and you see that, okay, I'm not just the only one feeling this, everyone is afraid or everyone is anxious about the situation, you will know that you are not left out of it. So when mental health experts begin to give interventions or provide solutions to these concerns or these illnesses or the after effects of this wars, they know that they are healing together. It's creates bond and unity. But it's also important that we have individual sessions also because it helps us say what we couldn't say when everybody's there.
General.
Because maybe everybody might be talking about anxiety at that point, but
Yours is different.
yours is slightly different. You are anxious, but maybe you are tilting towards the depressive symptoms, but you don't want to talk about it because you want to be you want to be part of the group. But when we now create individual sessions for people to vent, to talk, to express themselves, then people can actually open up.
Well, let's talk about the people affected by this. Persons tend to immediately look at survivors, people who have either been injured physically or had their friends, families injured. But there's also issues, just as we saw with the Ukraine news item area, where the combatants, people who are actually soldiers who are involved in this war, tend to suffer some things later on, even after the war. You see them breaking out in cold sweats, nightmares, being unable to sleep, having so many of these symptoms. And like we saw in that news item, there's the question of how do they transition from experiencing the gore and horror of war back to a regular living and, where you can still smile and joke and have some fulfillment in life and not see dark shadows everywhere around you. So that's for the soldiers and also the survivors who are victims and all other parties involved, even those who are the ones there to offer care.
Yeah.
How does it work for each of these different persons who are affected by war and the trauma that comes with it?
Okay, I would like to start at the very core because I think one of the issues we have with soldiers is that one of the reasons why after wars it's very difficult for them, or when they are retired, for them to integrate into the society is because right from the beginning, when they go to wars, at the beginning, their issues are not tackled. Let's say after every war, after every conflict, soldiers should be brought back and assessed. So this helps us tame or deal with issues very earlier than when they now want to reintegrate them back into the society. Because by the time we have a backlog of issues, when we now want to address them, imagine issues that are spanned over 20 years, 30 years, and then you're now trying to integrate someone that has an issue of over 30 years into the society. We're going to have a lot of problem. So one of the things we can do in order to integrate these people into the society is by creating a very supportive system for them. Because, one of the things with this, you would see that they can't effectively, especially when you're a very active soldier and you're actively in war, what you would see is that it's very difficult to live that active nature, that ability to always be out there. And then the trauma, that's PTSD. In order to deal with that, you actually have to bring the person out of, as the person is transiting, the person must find a community where the person can reflect and grow better, where the person can actually see that there are other people like him or her. So these people group, those people, there are also people actually that, and soldiers, for them, they are combatants ready. So they expect wars. They are trained to maintain peace. That means they expect wars. But there are people that are engrafted into the war that are not actually soldiers.
Yes.
But they don't know what it means to be a soldier. But because of maybe shortage of resources or manpower, we now have to recruit them into the system. So they have a very larger tendencies to have severe mental health issues because they are not ready for it. They are just going into it. So you see, incorporating them back into the society will be very difficult because they are not just, they're going to have post-traumatic stress disorders. They're going to have hallucinations. They are trying to get their life back together because this is something that they are not used to. But they now want to, and you have introduced them to a whole different experience from what they know. They don't know what it means like to carry guns, to experience the trauma that comes with war, but then you're exposing them to it. So it comes to a place where they are not easily, in fact, they are at the point where the people like this have more higher tendencies of having mental health issues as compared to soldiers who are combatant ready and are actually designed to do all these things.
Okay, fair enough. Jennifer, I want to get your thoughts on. I want to merge two questions now.
Okay.
My first question is, we agree that not just adults witness war,
Yeah.
but children. So how do we tend to shape their mindsets on this trauma whenever they encounter it? Like, how do we tend to shape it? Then my next question is very, very important, right? Communities, they were neighbors, people lived together, and then conflicts came into the picture and people separated. What are your thoughts on how can these people build trust when they come back together, having new neighbors or having people that they stayed with, initially? The major word there is how can they build this trust?
Okay, so it's sad that we have children part of the wars or conflicts that happen because nobody's left out of the consequences of wars or conflicts. It's sad to know that children are actually involved. But they should actually be the first priority in every intervention. Children should be part of they should not just be part of it, they should be the first people to attend to. Once we're done dealing with the injured and the rest and all that, we should actually focus on the children because these are the future. And the thing with conflicts and wars is that they just don't end with the people that experience it. They can be passed down to generations. The effects of wars and conflict, it can be passed down. And if children witness it, they can run with the mindset of conflict and wars and the after effects. Imagine experiencing a situation where your mom was killed or your dad was killed or you watch your friends die. It does a lot to the child. So it's very important that we bring the child to children in such environments to a safe space. Once we create a safe space for them, then we must have a system that allows them talk. It's very important for them to express themselves so that we understand their perceptions on the issues. When you understand their perceptions or their perspective towards the conflicts, the matters that happened, then you can know how to address it. It's also important to children live by routines. That's how we train children. You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, take your bath, you take breakfast, you prepare for school. So in such situations, we must create routines for them. They must not get to that point where they believe life is just like that. So everything is scattered, disorganized. They just know that everything is ruined. So mental health care professionals, leaders, community leaders, parents should see to it that they create a routine for them so that they don't live under the shadow of the things that has happened, but that they can know that life can come back to the way it is. That means the people that are actually going to be taking up this action or taking this responsibility of creating these routines for them must be also people that has been taken care of. Your mind must be alert. You must be very conscious that you are building them. So routines are very important. Then to your question about creating trust amongst communities, one of the things that we must know is that it's very important that when conflicts happens or when there is wars, people must talk. Some people make the mistake of thinking that when wars are over, everything is okay, we move on. So part of the ways we can help build trust among communities, one, make sure that they are part of the rebuilding of the city or the community that was destroyed. Let them be part of the building process. Because, take for example, most times when there are in war zones, we have more foreigners come to rebuild and set up the place and all that. As much as that is beautiful and that's awesome, we must also now bring in the people that are in the community to be part of the building process as they are building their healing. Because they are interacting with each other, asking questions, finding out the way to move forward. When there is a challenge, they put their heads together to see how they can overcome such challenges. So it's very important that part of the building process is that people build. People that are also involved in the wars, they should be involved in the building. Secondly, people should be allowed to talk. If we are saying that a community A fought with community B, and then we are coming to a part where we are trying to seek peace between the two communities, the war has ended, we should not assume that all is okay. We must come to the point where these two communities must talk. They must be allowed to express themselves, because I might not be happy with this, with community B, and community B might not be happy with me. But to assume that everything is okay will only lead. This is a psychological build-up. I have reservations inside my heart, and it will make people get into a self-preservative state. They will begin to detect threats. You don't know that because you think that peace, okay, we have agreed, we've moved on. But people get to a self-preservation state where they begin to easily see people as threats, see other communities as threats. So it's important that people sit down and talk, have community meetings, let the leaders talk, let the people who see the leaders meet together, let them see the leaders mingle together, do things together. That helps ease the psychological burden that comes with.
Thank you so much. We'll have to round it off there, but we've learned a lot, and I think we see how there's a light at the end of the tunnel, a ray of hope for people who are going through all kinds of things in conflict zones. Thanks so much for joining us today, Jennifer. All right. Well, that's how we round off this segment. We've been speaking with Jennifer Kizito, a psychologist. We're talking about healing after conflict. With all that she's said, I think I'm confident that whoever has gone through these issues will have some ray of hope as to the way they can come out of this and come out living a regular life like everyone else prior to what they went through. So we'll go on a break now. When we return, we'll be joined by Paul Oladipupo for Verified Voices segment. Don't go anywhere.
Every day, amazing stories of hope and tenacity unfold across the globe. On Hude Hour, we dive into these inspiring tales and discuss the vital work being done in the humanitarian and development space. Humanity has never faced a shortage of challenges, yet we rise stronger through teamwork and determination. Though these remedies are often underreported, on Hude Hour, we advocate sustainable solutions. We bring you the latest and most impactful news on how lives are being changed. We engage with young change makers and experts who provide valuable insights into relief efforts and the challenges faced by local communities through a global perspective. Join us every Wednesday by 8 a.m. on Hude Network's YouTube channel as we embark on this journey of positive change.
Hey everyone, let's face it, our world today experiences numerous challenges. And guess what? Our community isn't off the hook either. Most of the world issues are either not talked about enough or never talked about at all. But here on Timeline, we've got you covered. We dive deep into issues that affect us every day, leaving behind footprints of wisdom, knowledge, and solutions. Think of it like a roadmap that keeps you on the track for success. So buckle up, because in this new season of Timeline, we're taking another trip through the past, the present, and navigate into a more promising future. Again, we're talking solutions, people. And let's make one thing clear. This is not your average blah, blah, blah convo. This is real talk with a side of inspiration and a sprinkle of wow. I never thought about it like that. I'm your host on this impactful ride. Together, we'll tackle the tough stuff, laugh a little, and find ourselves on the path to positive change. So what are you waiting for? Season 2 of Timeline will be loaded. Let's get started. Hop in and let's drive straight into the heart of issues shaping our world. Let's go. Oh, one more thing. Hit that subscribe button and let's take this ride together.
Welcome back. This is still Hude Hour right here. We've been talking on the issue of post-war trauma, how we can heal after the conflict, and bringing back mental awareness for people who have suffered in conflict zones and managed to survive. We've been joined now with Paul for the Verified Voices segment. Paul, what do you have for us today?
Hi, Amadin. It's been a very sad episode, I must say, talking about war and talking about events that happen after the war, talking about post-war trauma. A lot of things, a lot of traumatic events are left behind, even though, apart from the fact that we see buildings being torn apart, seeing cities torn apart, families torn apart as well, we also see that there's also a trauma that remains with people even after the war. Let's see what our Verified Voices are saying today. The very first tweet here is from the United Nations. This says that the war in Gaza has deeply impacted mental health. Since the conflict began, around 730 people, mostly children, have received critical psychosocial support from UNRWA, an indispensable lifeline for those facing immense hardship. I mean, it is sad enough to say that some of these persons they don't have families together again, probably they don't have a job, they don't have a house. And now to see that they now, apart from losing all of that, they still lose their mental health, basically, because at that moment, they suffer from several things. You've mentioned PTSD, bipolar disorder, amongst many other things are the things that they face. Joan, your thoughts on this?
Well, we have two types of, affecting that it can have on mental health. We have the positive and the negative, and it's obvious that it's the negative effect we're talking about. And 730,000 people, mostly children, is a huge number for me that have been affected. And even though we're having help from the United Nations, it's too much. The people affected. The war in Gaza has really done enough on the mental health of people. So
exactly, it has done enough.
Quite unfortunate.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate, I must say. Let's move on to the next tweet right there. So this is from UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency. This says, access to mental health support is a human right. These graphics also say that the scars of war aren't always visible. Refugees who have lived through war need access to mental health support. This is just like what I said earlier, that apart from the fact that we see that buildings are torn apart, we see that families are torn apart, another aspect again that has been torn apart is the mind of people. And we can even see here in this picture where we have a bandage right there on a broken heart. And really, that's what it is, a broken heart here and there. In Gaza, for example, a number was given about 730 persons. That is 730 broken hearts. It is a very sad one. Apart from the broken homes that we can see that is very visible, the heart also is also affected and in turn affecting their mental health.
Yeah.
Amadin.
Yeah, just to point out, it's 730,000, so it's actually more serious. But as for this, I think, again, some of these things should be understood to be rights and not just privileges, as people tend to think. When they see that your injuries are not physical, there's a tendency to downplay it, but it's important to know that it is still your human rights. It's still part of health at the end of the day. Even the universal health coverage, that concept also includes mental health. The third SDG goal for good health and well-being, there's still mental health as a key part of it. So these are the things that we should take seriously and not just see as trivial issues that don't really matter in the long run.
Exactly. All of these issues, they really matter at the end of the day. The next tweet now talks about World War II. I mean, earlier on, you guys highlighted how soldiers also face the brunt of this particular issue. I've seen movies back to back and back again talking about issues that were faced by soldiers who went to World War. Let's see this tweet. This is from National World War II Museum. It says that National PTS Awareness Day recognizes the effect post-traumatic stress as on those. National PTS Awareness Day recognizes the effect post-traumatic stress as on those impacted by it. Of the 1 million men who saw combat during World War II, more than half suffer psychiatric collapse. Read about PTS, and the article is there. You can go check on their page to read that up. It's a very sad one to see that. I mean, some of these men were stuck in a particular place, some holes that they dug while digging through tunnels and things like that. Some of them were stuck for months, for days, and things like that. Seeing others, their colleagues dying right there. They couldn't even try to mourn them. You know, all of those things, it just leaves them with so much trauma at the end of the day. Joan, your thoughts on this?
Well, for it to have a particular day where they celebrate it, or will I say, not really celebrate, but the day we mark it and we come to understand that, yes, this is very, very serious. Yeah. It is a very, very serious matter for me. And those soldiers, well, I hope you heal and you heal well.
I mean, healing is very important. Someone like Elon Musk, for example, also referenced the fact that his grandfather was part of those who fought during the World War II, and he also referenced that his grandfather also suffered from PTSD, but one way or the other, he was able to manage it, unlike some others who weren't able to manage it. Let's move on to the final tweet of the day now. This is from Dr. Sweet. It says that many Black men experience multiple mental health conditions simultaneously, such as PTSD combined with depression or substance use disorder. I mean, I think one that we might not really talk about much is the fact that sometimes it starts from just PTSD, and then sometimes it grows into depression. And if care is not taken, they become addicted. They become addicted to drugs, certain drugs. I mean, we see. I think back then during for World War II, now for example, opium was more like the drug that they used most of the time then. Amadin, your thoughts on this?
Yes, I think it says it all there. It's a serious issue, and it's not all the time that just counseling is used. Sometimes drugs are used as a gateway to escape, and that can lead to other issues. So it's important that professionals handle this, and so that we don't end up from one issue to another.
Well, exactly, that's very beautiful. Thank you very much, Amadin. It's important that we ensure that everyone is safe, especially those who are in conflict zones, to ensure that their mental health is also taken care of, apart from their physical health, and also ensuring the environment as well is back to normal, is restored back to normal. My name is Paul Olatupo, and it's been a lovely time here on Verified Voices. Over to you, Amadin.
All right, thank you so much, Paul. That's how we round off the program for today. It's not been the most exciting one, but we do hope we're making the most change here by drawing attention to this very dire issue and the importance to ensure that the mental health of those who are in conflict areas or post-conflict areas are taken care of. Soldiers, women, children, men, all of them require help, and we hope that we can end the cycle of violence by taking care of these people. It has been Hude Hour right here, and we will see you next time, Wednesday, 8 a.m. Do join us again. When you do, I remain the same. I am Amadin Ogbewe. Bye for now.
I am Joan. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye for now.